See? Okay. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I know that this channel has kind of mostly been comprised of travel vlogs, and I did do one life update a couple months back just talking about my new tattoo, what it means to me, and what I had kind of been going through all winter. So if you haven't seen that and you're kind of curious as to just like how life has been in the UK, that is something I would definitely recommend to go watch, because my mood there and my feelings there are a little bit different than how they are right now. So basically, I just wanted to make this video answering a couple of questions, some that I just think that people ought to know if they're thinking about studying abroad in the UK, and some that some friends had sent me. I asked on my Instagram and my Snapchat, and so yeah, I just wanted to answer them because I think that I definitely wasn't prepared enough to move to the UK, and I think that if this could help somebody make a decision, whether that's to come to the UK to study abroad or just to study abroad in general, I definitely want to give any sort of wisdom that I possibly can from what I've learned and just help somebody make that decision. Let's just go ahead and get into the questions. So I have my questions on my laptop right over here, so if I'm looking that way, sorry. Okay, so question 1. If you could take anything from back home and bring it here, what would it be and why? That would either be between my car and like just food in general, American food. And I'll explain. So, I did not realize how convenient my life is in the States, and didn't think about the fact that like we just have it really easy in terms of how accessible everything we want is. And I think I definitely take for granted the fact that I have a car and I can go wherever and whenever I want. So that is something I hate, relying on public transportation. It's not reliable. You could be late to things, which I have been multiple times. Things get canceled. You have to think on the fly. You end up spending more money because you have to pay for taxis and stuff if your train gets canceled and you can't go anywhere. So I definitely dislike relying on public transportation. Now, caveat. I think that if I was living in London, it wouldn't bother me as much, because London has the tube. And the tube, you're never really going to have to worry too much about timings or things being late when it comes to the tube, because it just constantly runs. It doesn't have to deal with traffic, none of that stuff. So I think if I was living in London, public transportation wouldn't be as annoying, but I find it really difficult in Brighton. So if I didn't have to deal with the stress of just driving in England, I think I would definitely want my car. Second would be food, because to be completely honest with you, and I'm sorry to any of my British friends that are listening, British food is very bland. It's not my favorite thing in the whole world, and I just miss the variety of food that we have in the States, and I miss In-N-Out more than I could ever describe to anybody. So yeah, food or car. Second question is, what is the number one thing you'd do again and the number one thing you would do differently? So, I think that if I was going to do an exchange program again, one, I would do it in Europe again. That would be the one thing I would do the same, because I feel very fortunate to be in Europe and have the accessibility to so many countries, and it's just very easy to get around Europe, and there's a lot of places you can travel. So that's definitely one thing I would do again. As for things I would do differently, if I was coming to England again, I wouldn't live in Brighton, for a couple of reasons. Brighton doesn't feel like England to me. Brighton is a very quirky place. It's very artistic. It's very modern. It's very liberal. And I think that I was just hoping to be moving like to picturesque storybook England, and Brighton just isn't that. And that's nothing against Brighton, because Brighton has really cool things too. I was hoping for more of that quintessentially British feel of where I was living, and Brighton just doesn't give me that. So I definitely don't think I would come to Brighton again. And Brighton's extremely expensive. Like, besides London, Brighton is the most expensive place in the UK as far as anything I've heard. So I definitely wouldn't do that again. Second thing I probably wouldn't do again would be to do it for a whole year. Personally, I underestimated homesickness, and I underestimated I just wasn't prepared to move to England, basically. I didn't know enough about it. You don't know what it's like to live here until you come and do it. And I think that if I was going to do it again, I would only want to be here for one semester, and that would be good for me. And I would feel like, okay, I got my experience in, I did it, I'm happy with it, I know what it's like to live in England now, and personally, like, I'm ready to be home. So I think those would be the two things I would do differently. Question number 3 is England as dreary and rainy as it has a reputation for being? And the quick answer to that is yes. Now, I'm a person who passionately loves gloomy days and rain. That has not changed. I still love gloomy days and rain. I'm happy with the gloomy days. But the rain here isn't necessarily like pretty rain, I would say. It doesn't necessarily rain, it just like mists and sprinkles a lot, and then there are days where it's like torrential downpour, but the worst part about that is always windy. And maybe that's just a Brighton thing, but in Brighton it is windy every single day no matter what the weather is. So when you pair wind and rain, it's just not great because you can't use your umbrella because your umbrella will want to fly away and break. And like no matter where you're holding your umbrella or if you have on a hood or a hat or a coat, rain's coming at you from all directions, so you're gonna get soaked regardless. It's just really, like I said, I still love gloomy days, I love the rain, but I do miss the sun because I'm paler than I've ever been in my entire life living here, and there's not much sun, like, ever. I guess in short answer to the question, yes. What is your best advice for packing? My best advice for packing is to pack lighter than I did. So when I came out here, my dad came out with me, and we had, how many suitcases? 1, 2. We had 4 checked big suitcases, 2 carry-ons, 2 backpacks. And I brought so much clothing. And keep in mind, I left a lot of clothing and shoes at home. I just have a lot of clothes and shoes. And I would say you don't need to bring that much. Definitely, like, pack lighter, pack less shirts, because I brought a lot of shirts and I don't wear them. And I packed a lot because I was like, oh, well, I wear this sometimes and I'm gonna be there for a long time. Because in my case, I haven't gone home at all. So I was like, oh, I need to pack for the entire 9 months, and like, I can't, I need everything. Forgetting that I like to shop a lot. You don't need that many shoes. Personally, I wear Converse pretty much every day. So I have a couple pairs of Converse that I wear every single day, and I had a couple pairs of boots. But then I brought like flats, flip-flops, which nobody in England wears flip-flops ever, and the weather never allows you for it. And like loafers and flats. Because it's raining a lot and it gets muddy when it's raining, I don't ever want to wear my flats because I don't want to ruin them, so I didn't even need to bring them. So I would say pack lighter than you think is okay, and you'll be fine. What has been the biggest challenge moving here? For me, I would say the school system. The school system has been a very difficult thing for me to get used to, and talking amongst my international friends, I have gotten a lot of mixed reviews. Some people like it, some people hate it. Personally, I hate it. It doesn't work well for me. It's just so vastly different, and I could do a whole other video on the differences between the US versus the UK, like, university system. And if that's something that you guys would be interested in, comment below or like DM me on Instagram something, because I could talk about it for a long time. But I think that has been the most difficult thing for me to get used to. One of the things I'm very excited to get home to is the US school system, because I know how it works and I know how to make it work for me. What is the best piece of advice for somebody wanting to study in the UK? My best advice for somebody wanting to study in the UK, especially if you're American. If you're coming from another country, the advice still applies, but it's going to apply a lot to Americans because I'm American. But the best piece of advice that I could give is be prepared for how incredibly different it is. I was not prepared for how different it is because when you think about it, oh, we both speak English, like we're both Western modernized countries, we're both developed nations. But the UK is similar in the US in a lot of ways, but it's also very, very different in a lot of ways. And I wasn't prepared for that. And I think that it's also very hard for me to articulate just like the ways in which it's different, but I feel like it's almost something that you can't really articulate until you just experience it and live it. School systems definitely one, public transportation definitely one, but I would say just be prepared, and if this is something you're thinking of doing, I would say still do it. While this year hasn't been like exactly what I thought it was going to be, it's been an amazing learning experience. I've gotten to do and see a lot of really cool things, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity. But I wasn't prepared to do it, and I think that if I would have told myself, okay, you need to know it's going to be different, it's going to be different, it's going to be different, and not just thinking, oh, well, yeah, like, there will be differences, but they have to be kind of similar, right? Wrong. Throw that out of your brain. I would say, yeah, just prepare. Like, one thing that I didn't think about is I find myself really missing just brands of, like, different foods I eat every single day. And there's a lot of foods in the States that you cannot get in the UK, like relish, for example. Pickles, don't have. I mean, the list goes on. But I think that that's something that you just find yourself missing, the things that you know as normal and don't think about a lot more than you ever thought you would. And that is something that I was not prepared for. So I would definitely say just prepare yourself. And that's all I've got. If you have more questions or want me to make any specific videos on any of these topics or just more Q&A videos about studying abroad, please DM me on Instagram, comment down below, anything to get in contact with me. And I hope that this potentially helped somebody if they're thinking about doing what I did, or just kind of gave people more insight into what it's like to live where I live right now. So yeah, I will see you next time. If you haven't seen my travel vlogs, definitely go watch them. I'm very proud of how they've turned out, especially my recent Amsterdam one. And I just think it's fun to look at like different cities and places like that. So definitely go watch that. Follow me on Instagram for a more day-to-day view of my life. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!